Hey guys, welcome to Blue Pill Podcast. Second podcast for today. Just got up early this morning. Been running around, running some errands. Got a little bit of time before work. Got a bunch of chores done at the house. Got my cigarettes pre-rolled for tomorrow, my next shift that I work. Just been poking around the house doing stuff, you know. So we're gonna do another video game review. This one is on Lemony Snickets' Series of Unfortunate Events. I'm a huge fan of the books. Now, this one is Game Boy Advanced. I used to own, way back in the day, I used to own the GameCube version. And I actually played it and beat it. I may talk about that a little bit more later. I'm not like a huge fan of the movie. I love Jim Carrey. I think he's a cool actor. I think in a way people underestimate children's maturity levels when it comes to, like, honestly, kind of their intelligence too. Because I remember being younger and watching kids' content, and some of, like, the humor in it, some of the stuff was just like, I don't know, you almost felt like you were being mocked, like some of the stupid comedy and stuff, like, I don't know, just like the slapstick type of stuff. I don't know. As a child, I always liked more serious content, you know, like Secret of Nim, or I don't know, Tim Burton, shit like that, like Nightmare Before Christmas, you know, Corpse Bride. Not that I didn't like kid stuff either, but there was just some that was just too goofy and dumb, you know. And I felt like with the Jim Carrey movie, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. Like, for one, they crammed 3 books into one movie. Like a hour and a half, 2-hour movie. I'm not sure the actual runtime. You could look it up. Hit me up in the comments if you know. And I kind of understand why they did it, because Series of Unfortunate Events was, like, really big at the time. But honestly, with the book, the first book, even though it was a shorter book, there was enough content in it that they could have honestly made a movie just on the first book. So the movie felt rushed. Now, the game is based off of the movie. So in the game, it's literally 3 sections of the game: book 1, book 2, book 3. Now, I have not beat this game yet, but I'm literally on the last level. You get a hook shot, a, like, special item, and it's actually super annoying because it's, like, super clunky how the hook shot works. It's aggravating as hell. So I beat the game, but I didn't, and I'll tell you in a second. It's interesting. And then if you can get the hook shot to work just right, platforming, man, like, the whole game as far as platforming was actually decently smooth up until this last fucking level, man. And it's so fucking frustrating with this stupid hook shot. So not only do you have to deal with the clunkiness of the hook shot, you have to deal with, and it could be honestly too, like, where the game is almost over. Maybe they were running out of time, or they were just like, hey, let's just rush this shit. We're almost done. Let's wrap it up, call it a day, and stack our chips and collect our checks, you know, which I hope that wasn't their mindset. But not only do you have to deal with, like, this shitty item and these shitty game mechanics on the last level, you have to deal with literally every boss you fight in the game are now just like regular opponents. So in the game, you fight multiple members of Count Olaf's theater troupe, and now they're just like, they just throw them in there as like regular, I guess, creatures, targets that you would have to face, and they're still as strong as they were when they were bosses. So now you have like 3 or 4 mini bosses plus a shitty hook shot that you have to deal with, like shitty platforming. So that's a little frustrating. But I've only been reviewing games that I've like technically beat, or like the review earlier today, it was a game that I didn't beat because the game is broken, you know, and it wasn't my fault. And I had made it like 3/4 of the way through that game, you know. But back to what I was saying about underestimating the audience. Like, I understand it's like young adult literature, but I mean, you could say the same thing about Harry Potter. And they kind of did what Lemony Snicket did, what J.K. Rowling did, of like, the further on in the series, the bigger the books get. So like, I'm literally all the way to the last book. And one day maybe I'll do a review on the Lemony Snicket Series of Unfortunate Event books. You know, I might do a book review on it. And if you're a fan of the conspiracy stuff, like, there's actually quite a bit of conspiracy stuff within this series, dude. Which we can kind of delve into during this podcast if we got time. But they become thicker, you know, and there is a lot of adult fans of this series, and I grew up on it, and it still holds up. Even as an adult reading it, I'm like, this shit's still fucking dope, dude. But if you read the book, like, there is, especially the first book. The first book, I think, is the darkest. Like, for one, your parents die in a fire, you know. That's how the game starts. That's how the book starts. And there's that. I say one of the darkest scenes that stick out to me, me and my brother both read this book. We're both fans of this book, my little brother. One of the biggest parts that stick out to me is, for one, the darkness of it. It is so dark and depressing. Especially Count Olaf's mansion in the first book. Like, you can visualize it in your head. Who I thought should have directed the film would definitely be Tim Burton. I think this is before Tim Burton went kooky and got on some new meds or something, because he got all colorful, and honestly his content kind of went to shit. Like, me and my brother reading it as kids in middle school, like, we were both like, dude, Tim Burton needs to fucking direct this. Of course he didn't. But one of the darkest scenes that stick out to me was when Count Olaf punches Klaus in the face. Klaus. Sorry, Klaus Schwab. Punches Klaus in the face, dude. And so it's like, okay, you have elements of child abuse. There's child neglect. The kids go to bed hungry a lot of the times. They're locked in their rooms. At one point, Sonny, the baby, gets locked in a bird cage, hung on the side of one of the towers of the mansion. Count Olaf is literally an uncle, and he's trying to marry his niece, who is underage, so you have pedophilia and incest. I mean, this is dark subject matter, and I don't know, I just feel like they underestimate the audience, and they made it like goofy, and you got Jim Carrey like prancing around acting dumb, and they even failed, honestly. Like, I watched the Netflix one, and I was so stoked for it. Now, the Netflix one is better than the movie. But even the guy who played Count Olaf in it was still just as goofy and just as dumb as Jim Carrey. And when you read the book, dude, it describes like Count Olaf with his broken smile, that he was creepy as fuck, even with the illustrations. Like, it's like he wasn't joking around and laughing and shit. Like, he was a psychopath, like evil, an evil motherfucker. And like, I don't know, there's not really any humor in the book. I mean, there's like witty stuff, but I don't know. I think the Netflix series kind of butchered it too. There was like a couple like singing scenes that I was like, okay, this is dumb. I literally fast forward through it. It's not supposed to be goofy, man. I wish that somebody would just do it right and make it dark as fuck with little glimmer, little moments of hope, and stop underestimating your audience, Hollywood. All children are not retarded. Trust me, you know. But so it is based off the movie, the game, but it is there isn't all that stupid humor in it. So that's one good plus for the game. So let's actually try to talk a little more about the game. I do have notes here. I'm not just going crazy off the top of my head. But so what I was saying earlier about I kind of beat the game. So when I load my file, it has a percentage on it. It literally says I completed 100% of the game. Even though I'm on the last level, I still haven't finished the story. I still haven't fought Count Olaf, the final boss. I still haven't saved Sonny from the bird cage. It says I completed the game. So technically I've beaten it, but I haven't, you know? And it could just be, like, honestly, just they did a shitty job at doing the percentage correctly. So there's that. There is like kind of like cutscenes. They're not really cutscenes. They're more like slideshows with images from the movie, which is fine. I expect that from Game Boy Advanced. And it's kind of cool though, the way they do it. It's very artsy fartsy. I love the artistic direction because with Series of Unfortunate Events, I wouldn't say it's timeless. I think it's based kind of in like the 1930s, 1940s. Because all the cars are old, and they kept with that vibe of like during the cutscenes of story. Even when the game is loading up and stuff, it's kind of neat. Like there's crackles and pops like it's an old film. And it's black and white. I don't know, it definitely sets the mood. Like when I first turned it on, like, this was one of the very first games I got for my Game Boy Advanced, here recently. And I was like, which game should I play? And I was looking through all the games that I had because where they're so cheap, I've been doing game hauls, you know? And, I was like, I'm going to go with a Series of Unfortunate Events. And as soon as I started it, I was like, ooh, this is cool. I like it. So the actual atmosphere of the game, is beautiful. The only way I can describe it is it's like cozy. So when I first got this game, it was during winter time, and I was unemployed for a while, but it was during like all these like snowstorms we were having, so it was all cold in the house. And the house that I live in it's kind of run down, which honestly kind of made the game even cozier. Just kind of chilling, like, because here in Kentucky, when we're snowed in, it's like dark. It looks like overcast and stuff. Well, speak of the devil, kind of like today. And it was just perfect weather. The music's beautiful for the game. The level designs are beautiful. Like the first levels, you're in Count Olaf's mansion and it's dark and creepy. The house is run down and you're exploring the house. Which, by the way, my Game Boy Advanced, and this might just be a problem with my Game Boy Advance because it looks like the original screen was broken for my Game Boy Advance. And what I think happened was I bought it for like $100 online, and I think what it is somebody had to fix it and then they were reselling it. So it is backlit, but it's a little on the darker side. So like, I've had this problem with multiple games of a game being really dark and creepy, and it's almost kind of hard to see. Luckily, with this game, you do have the option of going into the settings and making it like brighter. So I definitely brightened it because this game is very dark, especially with levels like Count Olaf's house. There's some cave levels. The third book is actually very dark. The first and the third book, which is, it's 1 through 3, like I said, in this cart. The first and the third book are very dark. So those sections of the game are very dark. Now, and actually towards the end, you actually end up going back to Count Olaf's mansion. But the middle part, when you're in Dr. Montgomery's herpetology lab and his house, where his lab is at, that's actually a brighter book and section of the game too. Like, you're outside, you're going through like the forest, and reading the book, it held up. It was accurate to the book of like, we had like a little reprieve in the series of like happiness and joy, which is what Lemony Snicket does with his story, is like completely dark, moments of happiness. Now let's ruin it again, you know? It's one of the less gloomy series of unfortunate event books, is the second one. So let's talk a little bit about just the features of the game. So you do collect a lot of extra content, which is pretty cool. So in the game, you collect like pages, you collect like butterflies, and this is all based off memory. I think the butterflies, when you collect the butterflies, you get to unlock still images from the movie. I don't know why I wanted to say phone there. So it's kind of neat. It doesn't really affect the game or the storyline or anything. But if you're into still images of the movie, if you're a big fan of the movie, it's kind of neat. I never went out of my way and was like trying to break my neck to get to these flying butterflies to collect the extra content, because I figured out, oh, this isn't really necessary to beat the game. But if I seen it, I would jump across it and collect it. So I mean, it's kind of cool. I like games like that, like we were talking about Harry Potter, how you can collect all the wizard cards. So it definitely gives it that replayability of like, after you beat the game, I'm not sure if it lets you continue your old file and restart it with the same stats and stuff like other games have done, or you know what I mean. So it would be kind of cool to like complete the game as far as like collecting all of the still shots and stuff, all the extra, you know. So that's kind of neat. Now, there is some neat stuff that this and the GameCube version, which is what I owned, the GameCube version, without going into a full-blown review on it, because I couldn't do it justice anyways, because I literally played it when I was in high school in Florida. So over a decade ago, like 20 years ago, 25, 24, yeah, like it's been a minute, years ago. So I do remember this though, that in the GameCube version and the Game Boy Advance version, it's kind of fun too. Like, you collect parts, like first level, here's an example. The first level, you're locked in your room until Count Olaf lets you out, but the orphans put their 3 heads together and they're like, let's break out of this room. And it's the first time you actually, each character Which, by the way, you can change between each character. And if this company like had the time and money and resources and weren't being rushed and stuff, I think they could have made this game multiplayer. At least 3-player multiplayer, to where, because it's Sonny Baudelaire, which is the baby, Klaus Baudelaire, which is the boy, and then Violet Baudelaire. So you do change between each character throughout the game. And certain characters have different skills and abilities, and each one has different weapons and items. So like Klaus, his is a like a sprayer. You absorb liquids and you can spray it out, whether it be poison or water. Violet's is an apple thrower. It shoots apples, so it's kind of like almost like an arrow, like it's in a U formation. It launches, kind of like a catapult, handheld catapult that shoots apples. Sunny, she basically, hers is an umbrella, so she can float with an umbrella. That's her item. And each one has different abilities too. So like Klaus is afraid of heights. So when you're playing as Klaus, there's certain areas that he'll be like, no, you got to switch to Violet or Sunny. Like, I can't handle this. He's scared of heights. So you can't play as him in certain areas. With Sunny, her thing is like, she's tiny. She's a baby. And she can chew through stuff. If you've read the book and or watched the movie or the show, you know that that's kind of like her superpower is she's got super sharp teeth and she's obsessed with biting stuff and chewing on stuff. And she's kind of cool too. It's almost like Metal Gear Solid-ish vibes or Sly Cooper-ish vibes, like a spy game, because they'll have her crawl through like air vents or floorboards or attic crawl spaces, inside the walls. So you'll find different sections throughout the game that different characters shine out and their qualifications are met. So she'll chew through walls and crawl through crawl spaces, so that was kind of cool. So they did kind of miss out on a multiplayer aspect to the game. And honestly, where it is Game Boy Advanced and GameCube, they could have done something almost like a Crystal Chronicles and figured out some way to make it all compatible. And I don't know, I just think of things like that sometimes as a gamer, like, hey, you guys should have done this or done that, Now, there is one section of this game that is, I'm not gonna lie, dude, it is like basically impossible to pass this section without a walkthrough. And even with the walkthrough, I had to get a pen and paper and literally mark out drawing symbols on each section, which sections go in which order. So on the third book, you're in the town, the village. I think it's like Lake Lackmos or something like that. There is a part where there's a fortune teller in town, and you have to jump across, and you're actually playing tarot. It's kind of occultic and it's kind of neat. You're actually playing tarot, and what you do is you're jumping across on certain platforms in certain orders with certain symbols, playing a matching game with tarot cards. And even with a walkthrough of the order and the symbols, like I had to literally have two pieces of paper, one with the order and the second one with the symbols. It was so fucking frustrating. And you have to battle enemies while doing this too, without dying, which is a possibility, and without getting knocked on a different platform and not realizing it and doing things out of order. Because when you do it out of order, you have to restart it from the beginning. So that was very frustrating. There is lots of puzzles in the game. So if you don't like puzzles or using your brain, don't play this game. Which it matches up with the books, honestly, because in the books, it's kind of like, it's not a mystery. It's not like Sherlock Holmes, but there is elements of mystery in the books of like trying to figure out who's who, who's good, who's bad, and there is puzzles in the book. I swear Lemony Snicket is an occultist. It would not surprise me because there is so much secret society and puzzles and all that sort of jazz in the game and the books that it's like, yeah, this dude has to be a freaking occultist, man, or a member of some form of secret society. The whole book series is about secret societies, the VFW and stuff. So if you're someone like me who's kind of a nerd, and I nerd out with this series because I'm a huge fan, and sometimes I see myself being kind of a purist of like, that's not canon, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm that way with the books and the movies, but when it comes to video games, I'm a little more lenient because I understand that, you know, to have a game, you have to put a lot of stuff that isn't in the original content to keep it a game, which makes sense. Now, I am one of those few people that it doesn't bother me if there's a lot of story. Like Final Fantasy X would be a good example of, there's a lot of moments in that game, like half the fucking game is literally dialogue and videos and cutscenes and shit. That didn't bother me, you know? It bothered a lot of people. They're like, when do I get to play this game? It actually don't bother me. But I do understand from a gaming like point of view that yes, to keep it exciting and stuff, like you have to have moments of like side quests and shit. So there's a lot of side quests that is like non-canon to the story that they just threw in there. Which I completely understand because you have to keep it a game, you know, and all games do it. If they're based off of some sort of source material, they all have to do it, and it makes the game function. So I understand it. One thing that I kept mentioning and then never going back to, so let me go back to it again. Sorry, man, I get on one tangent and I jump to another. I think that's honestly kind of why I'm a good podcaster, in my opinion. Not trying to stroke my own ego or nothing, but so there are these. This actually was kind of one of my favorite parts, is when you're collecting items and stuff to you alter your weapons. So like you'll collect a spoon or a spring or something, and you can kind of like it was fun. It was a neat little change it up, so it made the game less repetitive, which we'll get into repetitiveness here in a second. Because you're actually like putting these items together, and they did that within the GameCube version too, because that's the version I had. So it was for GameCube, Game Boy Advance, and PlayStation. They might have made an Xbox version. I'm not positive though. They usually do. But yeah, you get to actually like build your weapons and alter them, and sometimes you can get upgrades. Like if you find a secret item, you can alter you can upgrade your gun, your spray gun or your catapult gun, you know. Kind of neat and fun. As someone who likes Legos and puzzles and putting stuff together, it's a cool little mechanic of the game. But speaking of mechanics of the game and not being too repetitive, so there are little side games, and there's sadly only like 2. So I think they threw these in here as far as like references to the movie, but also to kind of mix it up a little bit to make it to where the game does not feel too repetitive. Now, I ain't gonna lie, the game does get slightly repetitive because they didn't have enough of these little mini games in there. Like there's one mini game where, and it has nothing to do with the game, it doesn't even affect the game at all, but in the third book, in Lake Lacmos. You find a random arcade machine, and Inception. It's a game within a game. It's kind of like Pac-Man, basically, or not Pac-Man, but well, a little like Pac-Man, but it's a like an arcade game styled after like the 80s, like Atari era, you know. And it was just kind of neat. Like, you play it, and I actually beat the mini game, and basically you're Count Olaf, and you're jumping around and you're shooting eyeballs at enemies and collecting fruit or something like that. It's Pac-Man-ish. It's kind of like Dig Dug, kind of like Donkey Kong. If you like classic games, you'll like it. And I ain't gonna lie, I found myself playing it over and over again, and then I beat it. But it was a neat little break from the actual game. And it was just a useless thing. Like, they didn't have to put that in the game. Has nothing to do with the story. Has nothing to do with furthering the storyline or furthering the game. It was just something fun. The creators was like, here you go, here's a little bone, you know, chew on that for a while. But there's that, and then there's a scene which is in the book and the movie, so it is canon, to where you're stuck at a railroad crossing, and you have to like use a slingshot, and you have to hit these like little gnomes or elves that pop up. So you have to hit them, and then you have to hit the switch that causes the railroad tracks to switch so a train doesn't hit you, because Count Olaf's a psycho and he tied you up and locked you in a car on a railroad track to kill you, you know. So you have to like hit it to like stop the train at the last second. It was a little stressful because they don't give you any form of tutorial, so you have to just kind of figure it out. So I had to retry it like 3 or 4 times, but I eventually figured it out and got it down. But yeah, it was a fun little break from the monotony of the platforming, you know, and it was a little break that was much needed. But my overall score, since I hit the 30-minute mark, I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. I can keep going longer, but I have to go to work. My overall score is a 9 out of 10. I'm a little frustrated because I'm stuck on this stupid hookshot shit and fighting full-blown bosses as mini bosses, and I technically have beat the game, but until I actually see those credits roll, I'm not going to feel satisfied. There was a couple points where I've been frustrated with the game. It is slightly repetitive, so I can't give it a perfect 10, but it is an awesome fucking game, and it's got a lot of replayability value. Graphics are great. It's cozy. It's just awesome. It's a good game. And I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 500 subscribers, so please share if you know any gamers who like reviews, or if you know someone who would like my content. Please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you all later.